Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, best bets video for UFC 315. Jack Della Maddalena taking on Bilal Muhammad over in Canada. And I encourage you guys, if you haven't already and you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, to hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get right into the bets. So this week we have the Confidence Slam Parlay as always, and kicking things off we have Navajo Sterling, KO or decision here. I like Sterling in this style matchup, trains out of City Kickboxing, 22-0 as a professional kickboxer, 6-0 inside MMA as a professional. So never tasted defeat, and I think that he gets it done here. He's not somebody that's going to look to implement grappling. He's not going to look for submissions, and he's got a lot of range for the division, very tall for the division at 6'4". Ivan is Arslan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but Ivan himself is very, very flat-footed, very, very stocky, a little bit slow on the feet, and he tends to be sort of first round or bust. I think that Sterling can pick and prod at him at range using his kicks, chop away at his calf kicks, and ultimately win either a decision here or find the knockout on the feet. And he's going to kick things off here as the first leg of our confident parlay. And next up, we have Benoit Saint-Denis inside the distance. I think he gets it done here inside the first round, honestly. Kyle Prapolik, he's coming in here on short notice, about a week's notice, to be honest. So Benoit Saint-Denis is a very tough opponent for him to step in and face on a week's notice. Benoit Saint-Denis, very, very aggressive. I think that he can get it done here either by getting a takedown and finding a submission or a ground and pound victory, or he could knock out Kyle on the feet. We've seen with Benoit Saint-Denis, he's the epitome of toughness. He can take a beating and still keep coming forward, but I don't think he's going to have to challenge too much on the feet here. I think that he's going to come in here, find the first round finish, and find a second leg hitting the green mark here as a victory inside the distance for Benoit Saint-Denis to get it done. And to round out our confident parlay this week, if you guys didn't check it out already, I'll leave a link in the description for my Dog of the Week video. Valentina Shevchenko is my Dog of the Week this week. And we're getting here a good price tag here at plus 5.5 on the spread. For those of you that aren't aware, plus 5.5 just means we're buying points on the judges' scorecards here. So all we need is Valentina to win a couple of rounds here and bank a couple of rounds. A split decision does it for us as well. Valentina just needs to win a few rounds, and I think that she does, as I explained in my Dog of the Week video. I think that she's the better all-around mixed martial artist. She can mix in grappling. Manon Farrow is a very dangerous striker. She is big for the weight class, but 11-time or 10-time Muay Thai world champion here for Valentina Shevchenko, so she's very credentialed on the feet also. She has experience going 5 rounds. Most of her fights, being that she's been a champion for so long, are 5 rounds. So I like her here. I think she has the better cardio. I think that she's the better striker. I think that overall she's got more experience, the better grappler. And we're getting here as an underdog. So I think the plus 5.5 spread is very safe. I can trust her to win multiple rounds here. And I think she wins the fight outright. But that rounds us out here for the Confidence Slam Parlay with Valentina. And first up for our moneyline bets, we have Ion Cutelaba. You might have to do your line shopping for this one. I know a few sports books have Ion Cutelaba here and have this fight priced, at even money here at minus 110. I think Cutelaba, honestly, with his experience, should be a little bit bigger of a favorite here. I'd honestly think that Modestas Bukauskas has been beating lower-level MMA fighters inside the UFC. His last opponent was absolutely terrible. Yes, he did get a first-round knockout, but the guy basically just shelled up against the fence and let Modestas tee off on him. So he's not going to get that here against Ion Cutelaba. Cutelaba, a European Sambo champion. I think he can mix in some of the wrestling, some of the grappling if he wants to. He's been a lot more measured on the feet recently as well. I like him here wherever the fight goes. I think he's much more credentialed, and he kind of beats the guys he's supposed to beat and loses to the higher level guys in the division. So give me Cutelaba here to get it done. And next up, we have Li Zhang, and I honestly like Li here. This fight is at 145. Daniel Santos has taken this fight on about a week's notice or a week and a half's notice. Daniel Santos usually fights up at 135. Very dangerous, very aggressive shoot-to-box fighter, as most of them are. But Li's style, I think, is going to be a little bit too much here for Santos. Li likes to pressure, but he likes to draw out the draw out the shot and counter against most of his opponents. And he's also going to have a big size and weight discrepancy here, usually fighting up at 145. I think that size and weight can really aid him in the grappling if he wants to mix in takedowns. But what I think is going to happen here is Santos being very aggressive. It's going to suit Lee. He's going to be able to feint time the counter here on Santos and land his hands. If he wants to mix in the grappling, I think that that's also a path to victory here for Lee. And he's also got the full camp, so I trust that his cardio is going to be a little bit better here than Santos's. And what I will say as well is that this fight also is, you got to do your line shopping here. I think that some sports books, before I did the video, do still have this at even money. So check that out. Do your line shopping at -110 here for Lee to get it done. And next up, we have Mike Malott taking on Charles Radke. And I like Charles Radke in this matchup. I think that he's being underestimated here. I think that Mike Malott, being from Canada, being the hometown guy, that obviously people are very high on him this week. But we've seen in the past, I think he's a little bit overrated. He tends to slow down in fights. He's got good grappling. He can obviously get this fight to the ground, which is what I think he's going to look to do early. We've seen with Charles Radke, though, he has slick striking, a nice left hook, very nice counters. And I think that as this fight progresses and Mike Malott gets tired, I think Charles Radke is going to be able to defend the takedowns and ultimately find a late finish, either in the latter stages of round 2 or maybe round 3. I like Radke here. I think that he's going to be able to time a shot and ultimately get Mike Malott out of there, as I think Mike Malott's just a little bit overrated. So give me the plus money here on Radke, and we'll talk a little bit about him in the props later on in the video. And next up, we have what I'm calling the Canadian Parlay this week, but only rounded out by one Canadian in the Parlay. We have Jose Aldo, the legend Jose Aldo here. He is taking on Zahabi. I like pretty much however this fight goes. I think it's going to be on the feet, but I like the stand-up affair here. I think Aldo's boxing is going to be enough. He tends to throw in combinations. He has the higher output with the volume. I would like to see Aldo go back to those calf kicks that he was famous for. Zahabi does tend to sort of put a lot of weight on his front leg when he walks forward. I think that would be great for Aldo to sort of chip away at with the low kicks. We're not going to see a whole lot of grappling in this one, but if we do, and we know that Jose Aldo's takedown defense is on point, I think that the volume here and that the combinations with the boxing and ripping to the body is going to be enough here for Aldo. And next up, we have Bekzat Olmakan, and Bekzat is taking on Brad Katona. I think Brad Katona honestly sucks. I think that it's crazy that he's won the Ultimate Fighter twice, because he's not looked good inside the UFC. And Bekzat, obviously fighting a Canadian inside Canada, I don't think it matters. I think wherever this fight goes, he's going to be the better striker. He's going to be the better grappler. We saw with Bekzat, he made a good showing of himself against Umar Nurmagomedov on short notice. He was able to get off the bottom position multiple times in that fight. He did drop Umar in the first round with a nice left hook, landed right to the temple and dropped him. I honestly think Brad Katona obviously is very tough, very durable. I don't see that Bekzat will be able to get a finish here, but I do think that he's going to win this fight wherever it goes to ultimately win a 30-27 decision, maybe even a 10-8 round in there somewhere. But give me Bekzat here as the second leg of our Canadian parlay. And speaking of Canadians, we have a fan favorite here in Jasmine Jasdavicius, a favorite on the Ground and Pound podcast. She's an absolute bro. We love her here. And she rounds out our Canadian parlay this week. I think that she gets it done with the wrestling. I think she can get this fight to the ground and ultimately pretty much just drown Jessica Andrade on the ground. I think, as we all know, Jessica Andrade is very live inside the first round with her power. But I like Jasmine here to mix in the wrestling, get takedowns, smother her, kind of just, drag her to the ground and, suck the will out of her, really. And just use her wrestling to get a pretty dominant victory here on the judges' scorecard. So plus 220 here for a little bit of extra value for those that are seeking some value here in the Canadian parlay this week. And next up, like I mentioned, the props section, we have Silva, man. I like Bruno Silva here to get it done. I think, to be honest with you, this is more of a play on the value side than enjoying either one of these two getting a victory. It's really difficult to sort of pick who's going to win in this matchup. But Bruno Silva has 20 out of 23 wins coming by KO. Obviously not looked good in his previous fights. He's lost quite a few in a row. I think it's something like 6 of his last 7. But we can't really trust the power bar's chin anymore. He's been knocked out in his last 2 fights. Joe Pyfer, he got knocked out by. He got knocked out by Dustin Stoltzfus, both in the first round. And that's where Bruno Silva is live. He is very live in the first round. He carries power in his hands. And it's really just a play on the spot and the value here at plus 450. I like the value here. A little sprinkle here on this prop wouldn't hurt, in my opinion, for a guy who I think his chin is going and where Silva is most live. And as I mentioned earlier, we have Charles Radke here, and I like him here to get a late finish. So what I'm doing here is a same-game parlay, a bet builder, if you will. Over 1.5 rounds here. I think Malot's going to mix in the grappling early. He's going to look to sort of keep the fight at distance and not necessarily engage too much with Radke. And as we've seen in the past, that Malot likes to, tends to slow down. I think Radke could get a finish here, and at plus 900 here to get a KO after a round and a half. I like it. I think that's great value. I like that as a prop this week. I think that it's very, very live, especially at plus 900. There's a lot of value in it. And I did also look before the video that Charles Radke KO in the third round is plus 1,800. I don't hate a sprinkle on that either, as we've seen Malot get finished in previous fights in the third round when he slows down. And that's going to wrap things up here for the Ground and Pound podcast best bets video. And coming to you soon, ladies and gentlemen, the full card breakdown for Gilbert Burns taking on Morales over at the Apex. It should be a good one. And the Ground and Pound podcast is going to break it all down for you over on the, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday this week. Keep an eye out. That's why you need to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything here on the Ground and Pound podcast. Let me know in the comments if you're going to tail, fade, and what you're going to bet on this week. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.